Some monuments are ancient. This one is still unfinished in our minds. Stonehenge keeps its answers. Tonight, 10 dark questions it won't resolve. Stonehenge is one of the most studied sites on Earth, yet it remains stubbornly unclear. There are no written records from the builders. There are no names, no explanations, no why carved into the chalk. What we do have are stones, pits, bones, and dates. Evidence that is powerful, but incomplete. That makes Stonehenge a different kind of mystery. Not a conspiracy, but a silence. Archaeology can tell us what happened, and roughly when. It can rarely tell us what it meant. And at Stonehenge, the meaning changes across centuries of rebuilding, movement, and ritual use. This film follows the evidence first. When a claim is unconfirmed, we say so. When a theory is plausible, we label it a theory. Those 10 dark secrets are not supernatural. They are unresolved, and they remain unresolved because the monument itself is a layered, shifting story. Fact 10. Stonehenge began as a cemetery. The earliest phase, around 3000 to 2935 BCE, was not a stone circle at all. It was a circular earthwork, a ditch and bank enclosing a wide area. Inside this ring were 56 pits, known as the Aubrey Holes. Around those pits, archaeologists found cremated human remains. Estimates suggest that between 150 and 240 individuals were cremated and buried at Stonehenge. This makes it the largest known cemetery of the 3rd millennium BCE in Britain. What makes this darker is the pattern. The majority of those buried were adult males. Pieces of unburned bone were also found scattered around the site, suggesting repeated disturbance or reuse. So what was Stonehenge at the beginning? A sacred cemetery, a tribal memorial, a territory marker, or a ritual gathering place for select elites? No answer is definitive. The cemetery is real and documented. The reason for the cemetery remains unknown. The deeper mystery is why this location became a necropolis in the first place. The landscape already had other monuments, yet Stonehenge's early use as a burial ground suggests its meaning was tied to death and memory from the start. The monument's most famous stones came later, but its earliest function appears to have been about people and their remains. Fact 9. The Aubrey Holes were likely bluestone pits. For years, archaeologists believed the Aubrey Holes held wooden posts, but newer excavation suggests something else. Evidence indicates the pits likely held bluestones before being reused for cremation burials. If that is true, it flips the sequence we once assumed. Stonehenge may have started as a stone circle, not just an earthwork. Those stones were then removed, and the pits repurposed as burial sites. Later still, the bluestones appear again in new configurations. This raises a hard question. Why build a stone circle, dismantle it, then build again? Larger, heavier, more complex. There are theories. One is that the earliest bluestones had a sacred function that later shifted. Another is that the community itself changed, reinterpreting the site for a new era. But no theory has firm proof. The Aubrey Holes reveal Stonehenge's earliest redesign. They show an evolving project, not a single act of construction, and they show that the monument's first stones were moved long before the great Sarsens arrived. That early decision still shapes everything we can and cannot explain. Fact 8. The bluestones came from Wales, 180 miles away. Most of Stonehenge's smaller stones are bluestones, including spotted dolerite and rhyolite. Geologists have traced them to specific outcrops in the Preseli Hills of West Wales, especially Carn Godog and Craig Rosy Phelan. The quarrying dates to around 3000 BCE, aligning with Stonehenge's earliest phase. The distance is the mystery. The Preseli Hills are roughly 180 miles away. In the Neolithic world, monuments were normally built from local stone, yet Stonehenge's builders deliberately selected stone from a far-off region. Why? There is no single accepted answer. Some researchers propose that the stones had ancestral or spiritual value. Others suggest a political motive, a way to unite distant groups by sharing a sacred project. A third theory is practical, that suitable stone for the monument's early phase was simply available there. But the evidence only tells us the what. We know where the stones came from. We do not know why that origin mattered so much. The effort to haul them across prehistoric Britain remains one of Stonehenge's deepest questions, and its clearest sign that something beyond the ordinary was at work. Fact 7. Nobody knows how the blue stones were moved. Even after identifying the quarry sites, archaeologists still debate how the blue stones traveled to Salisbury Plain. One theory suggests a maritime route. Stones moved to the coast, rafted along the Bristol Channel, then carried inland via the River Avon. Another argues for a fully overland route, based on quarry locations on the north side of the Preseli Hills. There is no conclusive evidence for either path. No ancient boats or hauling tracks survive. No single route shows direct proof of large-scale stone movement. That leaves the question open. Did Stonehenge's builders rely on rivers and tides, or on sledges and manpower across rugged terrain? This matters because the method reveals the level of organization. Sea transport implies boats, crews, and planning over long distances. Overland transport implies roads, support camps, and immense coordination. Both are demanding. Both are possible. Neither is confirmed. So the blue stones remain a mystery in motion. We know they were moved by people, not glaciers. We know the stones arrived, but the exact path and the system behind that path is still unseen. Fact 6. Most sarsens came from Westwoods, but 2 did not. Stonehenge's giant blocks are sarsens, massive sandstone stones weighing up to 20 tons. A geochemical study traced most of them to Westwoods in Wiltshire, about 15 miles north of Stonehenge. 50 of the 52 surviving sarsens share that chemical signature, but 2 stones do not match. Their source remains unidentified. That is not a trivial detail. It means Stonehenge was not built from a single quarry. It means exceptions were made, and we do not know why. Did those 2 stones come from a different region with specific symbolic value? Were they added later, perhaps to replace damaged blocks? Or did they represent something unique in the monument's design? There are no records, only chemistry. Even the Westwood story is incomplete. The geochemical match is strong, but the exact extraction pits have not been found. So even when science answers the where, Stonehenge keeps the why. The sarsens are traced, but their selection still has missing chapters. Fact 5. The altar stone may have come from Scotland. At the center of Stonehenge lies the altar stone, a large, partially buried sandstone slab. New analysis suggests it came from the Orcadian Basin in northeast Scotland, over 700 kilometers away. If this result holds, it means the builders moved a 6-ton stone across a distance even greater than the blue stones. That implies a level of coordination, transport knowledge, and interregional contact far beyond what was once assumed. But the study raises new mysteries. How was the altar stone transported? By sea, by land, or both? Why choose a stone from such a distant source for the monument's central position? And what did that stone represent to the builders? The evidence for the Scottish origin is strong, but the meaning of that origin remains speculative. The altar stone expands the map of Stonehenge and deepens the mystery of its purpose. Fact 4. Blue Stonehenge was built, then erased. A smaller stone circle once stood by the River Avon, about a mile from Stonehenge. It was about 10 meters in diameter and surrounded by a henge. The stones were gone, but the holes remained. This lost circle became known as Blue Stonehenge. The timeline is unsettling. The Blue Stonehenge circle appears to have been built, then dismantled. The prevailing theory is that its stones were moved and incorporated into Stonehenge during a later redesign. But why build a separate circle near the river at all? Some researchers suggest it marked a processional route. a ceremonial endpoint along the avenue that leads to Stonehenge. Others see it as a ritual site for cremation or transitional rites. None of these interpretations are proven. The only certainty is that Blue Stonehenge existed and that it was deliberately dismantled. That kind of intentional erasure is not a minor detail. It suggests Stonehenge was part of a wider ritual landscape, and that pieces of that landscape were moved like chess pieces over time. Stonehenge is not a single monument, it is a network, and Blue Stonehenge is the missing node that proves it. Fact 3. The solstice alignment is clear, but the rituals are not. Stonehenge is aligned to the solstices. The axis lines up with the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset. Other nearby monuments share related solar alignments. This alignment is evidence, not speculation. But it doesn't tell us what people actually did during those moments. Archaeology shows large midwinter feasts at Durrington Walls. Pig bones suggest slaughter around 9 months old, which points to midwinter gatherings. So we can infer movement across the landscape. Feasting at Durrington Walls, processions along the Avon, and ritual focus at Stonehenge. But the sequence, meaning, and leadership of those rites remain unknown. Was Stonehenge a calendar for agricultural timing? A spiritual gateway tied to seasonal death and rebirth? A sacred stage for rituals we no longer understand? The alignments suggest intention. The ceremonies behind them are still invisible. This is a darkness of absence. We can see the path of the sun. We cannot hear the words spoken beneath it. Fact 2. The people buried here may have come from Wales. Isotopic analysis of cremated bone adds a human layer to the stone story. A 2018 study found that at least 10 of 25 individuals buried at Stonehenge did not spend their lives on the Wessex chalk near the monument. Their strontium signatures point instead to Western Britain, likely West Wales. This is one of the strongest pieces of evidence for long-distance human movement tied to Stonehenge. The blue stones came from Wales. The people may have come from Wales too, but who were they? Builders, priests, pilgrims, elites? We don't know. The isotopes only show movement, not identity. This matters because it suggests Stonehenge was not a purely local site. It was part of a broader network, a place that drew people across Britain. And that raises deeper questions. Why were some individuals chosen for burial here? What social or ritual status did they hold? And why does the burial population skew toward adult males? The science provides a rare thread. The social meaning of that thread is still unknown. Fact 1. Stonehenge was rebuilt again and again. Stonehenge is not a single project. It is a sequence of projects stretched across centuries. The earliest earthwork dates to around 3000 BCE. Blue stones were likely raised early on. The Great Sarsen Circle and Trilithons came later. Further rearrangements continued into the 2nd millennium BCE. That timeline is itself a mystery. Why rebuild a monument repeatedly? Why reorder stones, dismantle circles, and add new features long after the original builders were gone? It implies a living monument, one that successive generations kept reinterpreting. Each phase suggests a different meaning or ritual purpose, but because there are no written records, we cannot know what changed in the minds of the people who rebuilt it. Stonehenge is therefore not one mystery, it is many. Each construction phase is a chapter, and each chapter has its own missing explanation. The final monument is the sum of decisions we can no longer raid. That is the deepest secret of all. Stonehenge is a monument of change, but we cannot access the reasons for that change. We see the layers. We do not hear the voices. Stonehenge survives because of what we know and because of what we don't. The evidence is strong and the gaps are real. That is why it continues to fascinate. The dark secrets of Stonehenge are not about magic. They are about silence. The silence of a culture that built in stone but never wrote in words. That silence forces us to accept uncertainty and to keep looking. Which mystery matters most to you? The stones, the people, or the rituals? And which should we turn into a full documentary episode next?